Revealed, the incredible journey of a single mom fighting for her home against her own son. Emma's heart raced, her pulse matching the rhythmic beats of hope and despair as she stood in her small kitchen, overwhelmed by the weight of her choices. The warm glow of the setting sun bathed the room in soft hues, illuminating the memories etched into the worn wooden table where countless family meals were shared. But today, that table felt more like a prison, a constant reminder of her sacrifices as a single mother fighting to keep her home a home filled with laughter, the smell of her famous chile, and echoes of her late husband's comforting voice. With 2 jobs, she juggled life like a circus performer, always walking a tightrope. By day, she served coffee and pie at the local diner, and by night, she scrubbed office floors until her hands ached. Every tip, every dollar in her pocket was a brick she hoped to lay for Jake's future. Yet, as bills piled up like fallen leaves, an all-consuming doubt crept in. How long before her sacrifices coiled around her dreams like a tightening noose? Jake, too, felt the tension. The pressures of adolescence weighed heavy on his slender shoulders as whispers of his mother's expectations echoed in his mind. He craved his own identity, the freedom to make choices without the burden of being both son and a beacon of hope for his mom. When he stumbled upon a flyer for an arts program promising to shape the next generation of filmmakers, for the first time, his heart raced with excitement. Was this the escape route he had been searching for? With a desperation that clouded his judgment, Jake made a choice that shocked him to his core. He decided to sell the home where the walls held their shared laughter and whispered secrets, believing that wealth would free him to follow his dreams. Emma was oblivious as he plodded in silence, dreams swirling wildly in his young mind. Then came the day Emma received the news. It felt as if the ground had crumbled under her feet when a notice arrived in the mail. Betrayal surged through her veins as she read the words, "The house was on the market." How could he? She cried, tears streaming down her face, blurring the happy memories with grief. She felt both lost and helpless, a mother on the verge of losing everything she had fought for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Stepping outside, her heart raced as she faced their supportive neighbors, tears glistening in her eyes. "Help me, I can't let him do this," she pleaded, but they nodded, their expression filled with compassion mixed with their own hidden struggles. As they rallied around her, Emma found solace in knowing she wasn't alone in her battle against the world. Yet, as she fought to protect the heart of their home, Jake grappled with the whirlwind of choice he had made. In their shared silence, tension thick in the air, buried truths lay just beneath the surface, waiting to explode. Would they discover what home truly meant? Or would this rift tear them apart, leaving them lost among their dreams? As the town came together for a pivotal meeting, the stakes grew higher, and love battled ambition. Would Emma and Jake be able to bridge the gap between sacrifice and dreams, or would this spiral into something beyond their control? The town hall was packed. Emma stood near the back, the hum of voices blending into a chaotic chorus. Framed by the shadows of the crowd, she felt small, like a pin in an enormous cushion. "This is for Jake," she whispered to herself, trying to shake off the fear gnawing at her gut. How had it come to this? The meeting was meant to address community concerns, but Emma knew the real subject, Jake's choice to sell their family home. She spotted him at the front, sitting nervously with a group of his friends. He looked older than his 17 years, his face taut with uncertainty. Her heart broke a little more as she realized he was out there, fighting in his own way while she silently pleaded for support. As the mayor called the meeting to order, Emma took a deep breath, hoping to find strength within her. Voices filtered through the air, a mix of people sharing concerns about the housing market, and she squeezed her hands together, feeling the softness of the calluses from her cleaning jobs. She wanted to speak, to explain her side to those who had watched her struggle for years, like a tightrope walker trying to balance a million thoughts. Next we'll hear from Mrs. Caldwell, who wishes to express her concerns about the McKinley property, the mayor announced, gesturing towards her. Emma's heart thumped wildly. She stood up, feeling the weight of eyes on her, some sympathetic, others uncertain. As she approached the microphone, the room fell silent, anticipation hanging thick in the air. "Thank you, everyone, for being here," she began, her voice quaking slightly. "This house, it's not just a building. It's where Jake and I have shared life, love, and losses. It holds our memories, our triumphs. My late husband built it with his own 2 hands." Faces softened, but she could see Jake grimacing at the front. Would he understand her need to keep their family together? "But it's not just about me," she continued, trying to catch Jake's eye as she spoke. "It's about his dreams, too. I've worked 2 jobs to give him the life I thought he deserved. And if he really believes selling this house will set him free, I can't change his mind, but I need you all to understand how painful this is." She watched the emotions ripple through the crowd. Some nodded in understanding, others glanced at Jake. There was a collective deep breath as the tension transformed the atmosphere. As she finished, silence blanketed the room. Then the murmurs began, intertwining. A few neighbors stood up, sharing their own stories of struggle and hope for the future, echoing Emma's sentiments. The conversation shifted, community members discussing the importance of home and support. But then, in a surprising turn, Jake stood too. It was as if he had made a decision in that moment, determined to break his silence. The room fell quiet once again. "Mom," he started, his voice shaky yet firm. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought selling the house was the only way I could." "Jake, please." Emma interjected, her heart racing. "What do you really want?" The assembled crowd pressed closer, breaths held tight in anticipation. Eyes darted between mother and son, each second stretching interminably. What truth would emerge? Would the rift between them finally close, or was this moment just the beginning of something much bigger? As Jake opened his mouth to respond, the sudden sound of a door crashing open echoed behind them, a figure silhouetted in the entrance. A familiar voice cut through the tension. "Wait. Everyone needs to hear this." Emma's heart sank, dread pooling in her stomach. What could this newcomer possibly say that would change everything? The figure stepped into the town hall, breathless and wild-eyed. It was Mrs. Thompson, the town historian. Emma's heart raced. What did she have to say that could be so urgent? "Mrs. Thompson, what are you doing here?" the mayor asked, clearly taken aback. "I just found something. It's important. About the McKinley property," she called out, pushing her way forward. All eyes turned to the small woman who often shuffled about with papers in tow. She clutched a stack of old documents close to her chest, her voice quivering with excitement and urgency. "I've been researching the history of this town, and I think you all need to hear this before you make any decisions about the McKinley house." Emma exchanged glances with Jake. He looked bewildered but intrigued. The crowd murmured, curiosity replacing the tension of moments before. "What do you mean?" someone shouted from the back, skeptical yet drawn in. "Right," Mrs. Thompson called back, her enthusiasm infectious. "The McKinley house was gifted to a family who lived there during the Great Depression. It was meant to remain a home for those in need. I have the original deed right here." Emma's heart thudded. Hope. Or dread. Could this change everything? Local lore suggests that if the house is sold outside the family, the memories, everything the home has stood for, could be lost forever. "But there's more," Mrs. Thompson continued, her voice rising above the crowd. "Why now?" Emma could hardly breathe. Jake looked at her, his brows knit together, processing the implications. "There are protections in place for homes like these," Mrs. Thompson announced, her voice strong now. "I don't think they can just be sold away like that. Selling may not be an option at all." Gasps rippled through the hall as people turned to one another, weighing the revelations. Emma watched Jake's expression shift from confusion to realization, and then something else. Was it hope? A spark began to flicker in his eyes. "Mom," he said, moving closer to her, his voice barely above a whisper but steady now. "What if we don't have to sell? What if we can keep it?" "Yes," Emma whispered back, her heart soaring amid the uncertainty. "But how can we fight for it? I can't do this alone." Mrs. Thompson stepped up beside them, her old eyes gleaming. "Together, we can form a committee. We can rally the town's support to honor the home's legacy. It will require determination, but you both deserve that chance." The crowd erupted into chatter, voices rising with excitement, disbelief coupling with hope. People began discussing plans, ideas sparking like fireworks in the dense air. Emma felt a swell of energy, her earlier fears transforming into something palpable. Action. Jake turned to her, a glint of resolve shining in his eyes. "We can save our home, Mom. I want to fight for it together." But at that moment, a sliver of doubt crept into Emma's heart. Would the town embrace their fight? Would they turn their backs against a mother and son torn apart? As the crowd continued to murmur, a small part of her mind glimmered with fear. What if all this hope led to disappointment? Could they really hold on to a past that seemed to slip through their fingers? And just when they thought they had a plan, a voice arose from the crowd, a voice filled with animosity. "You're really going to try and fight this? After everything?" Emma froze. Who was that? She squinted, her blood running cold. It was a neighbor known for stirring trouble. The last thing she needed. "Let us see how long that lasts," the neighbor sneered. Emma's heart pounded. What would happen next? Would they crumble under pressure, or could they emerge resilient in the face of challenge? The chaotic mixture of fear and determination roiled within her, and she knew, without a doubt, the battle had only just begun. The question hung heavy in the air: what sacrifices would they need to make to protect their family and their home? Emma's heart felt like it might explode. The room buzzed with energy, but her chest tightened with anxiety, pushing down on her hopes like a lead weight. She looked at Jake, who was now standing tall, ready to confront whatever came their way. "What does that even mean?" he called into the crowd, his voice determined, challenging the neighbor's sarcasm. Emma admired his boldness, yet fear clawed at her gut. The last thing they needed was to turn supporters against them. "Sure, you can try. But do you really think the town will side with you? You're just a single mom trying to cling on to some old memories. The McKinley house is a relic. It doesn't belong in the hands of a family that hasn't even taken care of it," the neighbor sneered, arms crossed defiantly. Gasps echoed from the audience, and Emma felt the weight of judgment pressing upon her. "Enough," Mrs. Thompson interjected, her voice quivering but resilient. "This isn't about ownership, it's about legacy. The McKinley house stands for more than bricks and mortar. It represents hope, strength in adversity." That seemed to shift the mood slightly. Emma watched as some faces softened, nodding in agreement. She seized the moment, stepping forward to speak. "Mrs. Thompson is right. My family lived in that house. We have shared memories filled with laughter, warmth, and love. It's not just a house to us, it's home. But I can't do this alone. I need all of you. I understand if you have doubts, but if we come together." Her voice trembled as she searched the crowd, holding on to every pair of eyes. "We can create a future, not just relying on the past." Quiet set in as the importance of her words began to resonate. She could see murmurs of contemplation fluttering through the crowd like the first signs of an approaching storm. Jake moved closer to her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll fight for this," he said firmly. "We'll show everyone what the McKinley house means to this community." A rustle came from the back, a few voices rallying behind them. "Let us form a group. Let us research." Someone shouted, ignited with newfound passion. More voices joined in, igniting a flicker of hope in Emma's heart. "Together, we create a committee. suggested Mrs. Thompson, her face alight with enthusiasm. A collective effort from the community, not just a family's struggle. Slowly, heads began to nod, and Emma felt her heart swell. Could they really do this? For the first time in weeks, a rush of determination surged through her. A sense of community was starting to bloom, desperately needed after the isolation she had felt while wrestling with her fears about the house's future. "Let's hold a meeting this weekend," Jake proposed, glancing at Emma with a hopeful grin. "We can set goals, talk about the house, the history, what it means to us all." As cheers rose around them, Emma let out a sigh, the tension in her shoulders easing just a bit. But lurking beneath the surface were still the troubles ahead. Would everyone stay committed when forced with tough choices? And could the shadows of their past truly be overridden by the collective will of the town? Just then, the neighbor's voice broke through again, this time, laced with a simmering threat. "You think you can just build a fairy tale on this house's history? The truth is, it may not be the past that's your enemy, it might be your present." A chill raced down Emma's spine. What truths lay hidden, waiting to emerge? Gripping Jake's hand, she knew the fight had just taken a much darker turn. What skeletons waited to be uncovered, and would they help or hurt their cause? The looming tension made her pulse quicken. Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling Jake's grip tighten around her hand. The room felt electric, charged with both anticipation and dread. What did their neighbor mean by warning them about the present? The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, suffocating her hope and igniting a flicker of fear. As the chatter resumed, Emma felt a familiar sense of panic settling in. She swallowed hard, her heart racing. The commitment of the townspeople seemed fragile, like a delicate glass ornament that could shatter at any moment. If they were to change hearts and minds, they needed to prepare for everything. "Emma," Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back into focus. He leaned closer, his brow furrowed with concern. "Are you okay? You look unsure." "I'm just trying to wrap my head around what was said," she replied, glancing around. "We have to be careful. If the town is divided, we could lose everything again." "Then we do what we do best," Jake smiled softly. "We fight. We face whatever comes our way together." The comforting warmth of his words settled deep inside her, igniting her resolve. Slowly, she nodded. "You're right. We can't be afraid of what lies ahead." As faces began to turn toward her, Emma realized they expected her to lead. The thought made her heart race, but brought with it a flicker of strength. "Let's talk about what we'll accomplish in our meeting this weekend," she called out, the crowd falling silent once more. "I want to hear from each of you. What do you love about our town? What does the McKinley house mean to you?" She could feel their curiosity turn into enthusiasm, and as she spoke, ideas began to flow. Memories of summer barbecues, winter gatherings, and the safety the McKinley house provided all bubbled to the surface. "Let's plan a neighborhood cleanup," someone shouted. "Beautify the area around the house." "Or a history day at the community center," another added. "We can invite people to share their stories." With each suggestion, Emma's confidence grew. This was her community, her family. They were banding together, challenging the slurs and doubts that threatened their mission. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Emma stood with Jake, watching as voices merged into laughter and ideas. "See?" he said, nudging her. "It's taking shape." "Yeah," she replied, a small smile breaking through. "But that neighbor's warning, it keeps creeping in my mind. What if he's right? What if our past comes back to haunt us?" "Then we'll face it together," Jake assured her. "Whatever the present throws our way, we deal with it together." But even as Jake spoke those words, a shadow loomed over her thoughts. The sense of unity and hope felt fragile, and beneath the surface, she could feel whispered doubts nudging at her joy. What if their dreams were built on a foundation of past mistakes? That night, as Emma lay awake, her mind revisited the stories lurking beneath the surface of her memories. dark fragments of her past tangled with dreams of a brighter future. Were they truly ready to unpack what had been left unsaid? The dawn brought new light, but with it came questions that would need answering. Amidst the hope lay uncertainty, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something from her past was waiting, threatening to break free. With resolve renewing her spirit, Emma took a deep breath. She might be facing more than just an uphill battle for the house, she might be facing ghosts long buried. What would being a single mom mean as those ghosts came creeping back into her life? Could they still unite the town, or would the past tear them apart? Emma woke to sunlight streaming through her window, cascading light like a spray of hope across her room. But beneath that golden glow, shadows of doubt remained, swirling like storm clouds on a clear day. Today was the day they would flesh out their plan, and she could feel the weight of responsibility resting heavily on her shoulders. She brewed a cup of coffee, the smell filling her small kitchen and providing a momentary comfort. As she stirred in a splash of cream, her phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from Jake, a simple message filled with encouragement. "Remember, we're stronger together. Can't wait to see you at the meeting." That was it. His unwavering support acted like a buoy in her turbulent sea of emotions. Yet, the nagging feeling lingered in the pit of her stomach. As a single mom, she often second-guessed her decisions. Would she really be able to navigate not only the turmoil of history but also the expectations of a community forever tethered to her? The meeting was set for 6 o'clock at the community center. When she arrived, she took in the sight of familiar faces gathered in the softly lit room. There was Doris, organizing papers at the front table, Tom, bringing balloons from his truck with a steady grin, and the kids racing around, laughter echoing, innocent and carefree. Emma felt a mix of warmth and dread growing inside her. If only they knew what was lurking in the shadows. "Let's get started," Jake called, a spark of excitement lighting his eyes as he stepped to her side. The room quieted down, and Emma's heart began to pound like a drum in her chest. "We want to hear from all of you about what you love about our town and the McKinley house." Slowly, hands shot up. Stories came pouring out as each person spoke, memories that stitched together the fabric of their community. Clarity broke through Emma's fears. They shared a dream that transcended their differences. Each memory was a thread pulling them all back together, weaving a tapestry of unity. But then came a ripple of apprehension when Doris raised her hand, her face serious. "Emma, what about the rumors? People are talking about the McKinley house. About you. About your past." The room shifted. Emma felt cold sweat prickling at her neck. Whispers ignited behind her, casting shadows where there had been light just moments before. She could almost hear echoes of her old life, the mistakes, the heartaches, and they threatened to pull her under. "Doris, we must focus on what we can build, not what could tear us apart," Jake interjected, trying to restore balance to the room. But the unease lingered, lingering like a storm cloud no one wanted to acknowledge. Tom started hesitantly. "What did happen at the McKinley house all those years ago? People have a lot of questions." Each word seemed to hang in the air, heavy and laden with tension. Emma's cheeks flushed. She wanted to bury the past, shield her son from it, but how could she unite a community without transparency about her own story? I can't hold on to this anymore," Emma finally said, feeling the gravity of the moment. "I want to be honest with you all. I need to tell you everything." The room held its breath, anticipation and fear intertwining. Emma looked at Jake, who nodded his encouragement. The path before her was fraught with uncertainty, but she knew it was the only way forward. If she hoped to put the past behind her and lead them into a brighter future, she had to expose the roots of her fears. What would they think? What secrets would she uncover? Emma felt the ground shift beneath her as she prepared to reveal the truth that lay buried, a truth that might change everything. But was she ready for the consequences that would follow? Would this be the moment that united them or fractured their hopes forever? Emma took a deep breath, her heart racing in her chest. Each face in the room held a mixture of curiosity and concern, and she felt the weight of their collective anticipation. She had stirred the pot now, and there was no turning back. I know there are rumors, she began slowly, her voice trembling but resolute. And I understand where they come from. The McKinley house. It isn't just a building for me. It's tangled with my past, my mistakes, and the pain I thought I had left behind. Doris, still seated at the front, had softened her expression, but the gravity of Emma's words tightened the air around them. Tom leaned forward, his hands clasped together as he awaited more. It was years ago, she continued, feeling the tears prickling at her eyes. I was a different person, lost in a world that seemed too big to fight. My marriage fell apart, and I made decisions I regret. The McKinley house became a symbol of that time of what I lost. People talk about it as if it was just a bad chapter in a story, but it was my life. I was scared, and I ran. Jake's supportive gaze felt like an anchor as she forged on. But I came back for my son, for a chance to build a new life. I saw the potential in this community, the love and spirit it holds. I thought if I could set an example. Her voice caught, and she swallowed hard. I thought I could make things right. Emma felt a shudder course through the room as she glanced around. The expressions reflected a swirl of emotions. Some looked hurt, others angry, but she caught glimpses of understanding too. This was a gamble, and in that moment, she had cast her cards on the table. I'm not asking you to forget the past, she urged, her voice rising with conviction. I'm asking you to see it as a part of who I am, not the whole story. I want to work alongside you all to create something beautiful not just for us, but for our children. The tension lifted slightly as Tom nodded slowly, processing her revelation. Emma, he said softly, we all have things we regret. It's part of being human. What matters now is what we do moving forward. A muffled murmur of agreement drifted through the room, lending her the courage she needed. Emma felt hope stir within her for the first time since entering. Maybe she could guide this community toward healing, toward something more profound than just a shared history. But just as hope began to seep into the cracks of her worries, Doris spoke again, her voice cutting through the budding optimism like a sharp breeze. That's all well and good, Emma, but what if old wounds open? What happens when your past re-emerges in ways we can't control? Silence followed her words. Emma could see others sharing nervous glances. Would her honesty come back to haunt them all? The very question she had feared loomed ominously in the air like a storm cloud. I don't know, she admitted, folding her hands tightly together on the table. But I am willing to face it. I have to be strong for my son, for all of us. And I'm asking you to stand by me. Jake stepped forward, taking her hand in his. We're in this together. You don't have to carry that fear alone, he said, glancing around the room, inviting solidarity. Emma's heart felt a little lighter, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. Would they truly unite, or would this community fracture under the weight of the past? Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside. Everyone turned, the mingled surprise and apprehension vivid on their faces. Emma's breath caught in her throat as fear tickled the edges of her mind. What had shattered this newfound moment of hope? What storm was brewing outside, and would it bring them closer together or push them further apart? A collective gasp rose from the group as they rushed toward the windows. Emma felt her heart pounding. Was it the storm she feared, or something more sinister? Outside, there was chaos. A van had overturned in the middle of the street, with debris scattered like forgotten toys. Fractured glass glittered ominously under the streetlights. What happened? Someone whispered, but Emma didn't have an answer. The loud echo of sirens began to fill the air, growing closer with every second. Shadows moved amid the wreckage, turning the scene into a surreal tableau. Emma, let's check it out, Jake urged, his voice steady despite the panic that danced in her chest. Together they pushed through the crowd, moving past the worried faces of their community. As they stepped outside, the chilly air hit Emma's face like a splash of cold water. It jolted her senses. The sight of the flipped van was shocking, its doors ajar as if it had been expelled from the chaos. She could see a few figures rushing to help, others already surveying the damage. Someone shouted, "Call for help." Emma's eyes widened. She spotted a familiar face among the figures. It was Tim, her neighbor, crouched beside what appeared to be the driver of the van. Blood trickled from the man's forehead, staining the asphalt. "Is he okay?" Emma managed to call out, her voice trembling, urgency clawing at her throat. "We need an ambulance." "He's conscious, but he's hurt." Tim yelled back, his expression a mixture of determination and fear. The truth crashed over her like a wave. She realized in that moment how fragile everything was. Not just the community's trust, but the very fabric of their lives. Old wounds were opening, and they could bleed into history. "Do you think this is why everyone was so on edge tonight?" Jake asked, his brow furrowed. Emma could only shake her head, panic and worry swirling in her mind. Every face she looked upon seemed to echo her fear, revealing more than just concern for the man. They reflected doubt and memories of past tragedies that had haunted their town. What if this was a turning point? A moment that would reveal what they could become, or perhaps what they were trying to escape. Suddenly, Emma felt a tug on her sleeve. It was her son, Noah, eyes wide with fear. "Mom, is he going to be okay?" he asked, voice small and afraid. Swallowing hard, Emma knelt down to meet his gaze. "We're going to do everything we can to help, Noah. Just like we always do, okay? Together." But inside, her heart was heavy with the weight of her past. Would they still come together? Or would this event splinter their fledgling community, digging trenches that might never heal? As the ambulance lights flashed closer, the siren shrill and overwhelming, she felt a familiar tug of uncertainty. Would they all unite against the chaos or let it fracture whatever fragile bonds they were beginning to forge? Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows near the wreckage, a tall man, cloaked in shadows. He stepped into the light, his face unmistakable. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized him. It was someone she thought she'd left behind, someone who could unravel everything she was trying to build. What did he want now? What storm was brewing that she had yet to face? Emma's heart raced as the familiar face stepped into the light. It was Mark, her estranged husband. The man who had walked away when things got tough, the man whose absence had left a gaping hole in their little family. She squeezed Noah's hand tighter, as if the small gesture could shield him from whatever storm Mark might bring. "Mark," she whispered, disbelief washing over her. "Emma." "Noah," he called out, his voice smooth but laced with an unsettling tension. "I didn't expect to see you here." The sight of him sent a shiver through her. He looked different, older, more haggard, but his eyes still held that familiar glimmer. A part of her wanted to rush into his arms, the other part cringed at the memories of the pain he had caused. "What are you doing here?" Emma's tone wavered. She was both angry and terrified. "I heard about the accident," he said, shifting on his feet, seemingly feigning concern. "I wanted to see if you were okay." A few neighbors glanced at them, speculation lighting their eyes. Their hushed whispers bounced off the night air like fireflies. Emma could feel the judgment, feel their questions. Why was he back now? Did Emma believe him? Could he be trusted? "Stay here, Noah," she instructed quietly, kneeling down to him again. She needed to steer him away from this unexpected intrusion. "Just watch the ambulance, okay? I'll be right back." Noah merely nodded, his little body tense as he clutched his toy, eyes darting between the commotion and Mark. Mark stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You shouldn't be out here, Emma. It's dangerous. Let me help." "Help? You don't get to just show up and act like you care," Emma challenged, crossing her arms against the chill that was settling in her bones. "Not after everything." "I know," he said softly, guilt etched on his features. "But I've changed. I'm not the same man I was before. I want to be a part of Noah's life of yours." The words hung in the air like storm clouds, heavy with unspoken promises. Emma felt her resolve waver, but she snatched back any flicker of hope. He had shattered their family once. She wasn't eager to let that happen again. Right now, there's someone hurt and people need help, she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. You can't just waltz back in and expect forgiveness. Mark's gaze shifted to the ruined van. I know. I want to help really. But I need some time with you both. Emma studied his face, searching for any signs of sincerity. Beneath the weight of her doubts, she felt anger bubbling within her. Anger at him, at the situation, and at the memories flooding back. Just then, Noah's small, fearful voice broke through her thoughts. Mom? Emma turned to see her son's frightened little face peeking from behind the ambulance. His innocence had a way of grounding her, reminding her of what mattered most. With a heavy heart, she turned back to Mark, resolve hardening within her. You want to be there for us? Prove it. Leave now. Let me take care of what's happening here first. He opened his mouth, the words caught in his throat, but she cut him off. Please, just go. The disappointment and anger coursing through her felt like a storm fighting for release. She wondered if she was making the right choice, pushing away the man who had once been everything to her. But the scale was tipping, and she needed to protect her son first. As Mark stepped back into the shadows, enveloped by the chaos of the night, Emma's heart felt heavy. Could she keep her family together without him? Would she be able to navigate this storm alone? And would the past remain buried, or was it clawing its way back to the surface? Another siren blared, pulling her back to reality. People were forming makeshift barriers to redirect traffic around the accident. She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, drawing strength from the chaos. Mom. Noah's voice broke through again, anxiety creeping back in her son's tone. Emma opened her eyes, determination flooding her. The moment might seem overwhelmed and fragmented, but she vowed to navigate through it, one step at a time. Just then, a shadow loomed again beside the ambulance. She turned, heart pounding, realizing they were not finished with the evening's revelations. Who else had come to witness the aftermath of the storm? What truths awaited her, lying beneath the surface like submerged debris waiting to rise? As Emma caught her breath, another familiar figure emerged from the chaos. It was Doris, the neighbor who had voiced concern during their last meeting. Her eyes were wide with empathy. Emma, are you okay? Before Emma could respond, the atmosphere around the overturned van shifted again. A new urgency infused the air as the emergency personnel arrived, rushing to the scene with tools and determination. They moved with deliberate speed, assessing the driver and ensuring everyone stood back. Emma watched in silence, her heart racing, feeling her motherly instincts pull her closer to Noah. He's going to be all right, isn't he? Noah asked, clutching her hand tightly. Yes, sweetheart, she whispered, not completely convinced but hoping to reassure him. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. As the first responders worked, a group of familiar faces began to coalesce around Emma and Noah. Friends, neighbors, and supportive faces filled the scene. They brought food, blankets, and encouraging smiles to maintain the spirit of community. Emma felt a strong bond pulsating among them, flickering like a candle in the dark. Mom, can we help? Jake asked, approaching with urgency, driven by the conviction Emma had instilled in him. Emma smiled at her son's eagerness, witnessing his growth throughout this journey. We can comfort the people here, Jake. Let us do what we can. Together, they gathered supplies. They set up a small refreshment station, bringing water and snacks for emergency workers, their hands now buzzing with purpose. The weight of Emma's earlier unease began to lift as they rallied together during the unexpected storm outside. What had begun as uncertainty transformed into determination and community spirit. As the chaos of the rescue continued, Doris stepped forward, her voice carrying. Emma. We've heard the rumors, but we all know the truth. Your past doesn't define you. You have shown us strength. Others nodded in agreement. Emma felt warmth radiate from the crowd, infusing her with renewed courage. The whispers of judgment that once loomed over her began to dissipate, replaced by understanding. The people rallied around her, just as they had done in the hall. A moment later, the driver of the van was stabilized and placed on a stretcher. Emma caught a glimpse of his face, a mix of pain and gratitude. It hit her hard. Life could change in a heartbeat, and the foundation of support they had built mattered tremendously. The paramedics and officers moved the driver toward the awaiting ambulance, the crowd parting like the seas. But before the doors closed, the driver turned to face Emma, nodding in acknowledgement, a silent connection that told her she wasn't alone in this fight. Her heart opened wider, taking in the harmony of souls coming together in a moment of vulnerability. As the ambulance drove away, an electric buzz filled the air with newfound hope. The evening had transformed her compulsion for worry into a determination for unity. "See?" Jake said, smiling his boyish grin at Emma. "We stood together, and we made a difference." Tears brimmed in Emma's eyes as she took in the faces around her, her neighbors, friends, a community rallying not just for a house, but for each other. "You all stood with us without hesitation," she acknowledged with a quivering voice. "There's something so powerful about family and the bonds we share." In that moment, she finally realized, this isn't just about defending a building. Their true home rested in those shared moments, in laughter and tears, in struggles and victories. Jake pulled close, holding her hand tightly, a promise exchanged without words. As the crowd began to disperse, Emma felt renewed strength swell within her. She turned to Jake, his youthful confidence intact. "You know? I've spent so long focused on my past mistakes. This is our moment to build a future." Jake beamed up at her. "Together, right?" "Always, together," she affirmed, squeezing his hand. The community departed, but their spirits didn't falter. Nights spent questioning their fate turned into a dawn of promise. Hope glimmered on the horizon like the morning sun, beckoning them forward with courage they had learned to harness from shared stories. This journey ignited a new flame in her heart. As Emma glanced back at the McKinley house, she understood, it wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was the love, laughter, and resilience that lay within. And so, equipped with the courage born from their shared struggle, Emma took a deep breath, one last glance at the house, and began writing a new chapter, one with her community and her son standing tall beside her. You need to subscribe now to ensure that you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like right this moment to give the algorithm a little nudge, a small act that really makes a difference. We want to hear your reactions and feelings about the ending. Comment below with your thoughts. And please share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who truly need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Your engagement fuels our ability to bring you more stories that matter.